Hey, gang, coming up on our Finding Better podcast, Dorota Kosiorek is joining me, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun little tips to help make your life better every single day. They're neuroscience tips that help you fuel and focus your energy. And, take the 20% of things that you're working on that represent 80% of the value. Focus on those things. Do little things like replacing the words have to with get to, and also adding the word yet to any limiting comments or statements or beliefs that you have about yourself. It's really, really cool, really easy, very relevant. You want to share this with folks? Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life personal experiences, life wisdom of people who have been there and done that and finding better in their own lives. Because, sometimes the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of others who have been there and done it, right? Okay, so my guest today is coming from Poland. Okay, Dorota Kosiorek is our first guest from Poland. Dorota, welcome to Finding Better podcast.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I'm the first one Polish person here. So, super excited.
We're gonna have some fun. All right, let me give my audience a little introduction of you. So we're gonna talk about finding better success that you actually enjoy, and not one that burns you out. Sound cool? All right. So it's all about training your brain. So Dorota is a former consultant turned neuroscience coach for high achievers. Now, after more than 13 years in high pressure corporate and startup environments, Dorota hit a wall. Sound familiar for some of you? And she hit what she calls her success wall and realized that achievement without peace isn't real success. We all want peace. And that's what started her journey into helping others, folks like you and me, train their brain and check this out, design a version of success that fuels your energy and doesn't drain it, right? So, we're going to talk about how she rewired her own high achieving brain and redefined success, and how you can start doing it yourself. All right, Dorota, that's a pretty high order.
Mhm. Yes, thank you so much. No, I hope I'm gonna be able to inspire some of people listening to that. But I will share what I know, right?
Perfect, perfect. So you started off your career excited, happy, thinking you're going to take over the world, and 13 years later, what happened?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I think it was even like gradual journey, right? So I'll explore a bit. I started after uni. I started working in a corporation. Where everyone wanted to work because it
Sure.
was, status, prestige, good money, and something that probably I couldn't imagine in the past that I would be in that place. And I was super happy. I was always high performer all my life, at school, at uni, then at work. And it was all great. I was just going higher, higher, higher. Then I changed to another corporate, again, fast-paced environment. And it was great too, right? Like, nothing was really missing. But at some point, I was also, watching people above me, and I knew how their life looked like. So,
Ooh.
me.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That was really interesting. You were watching people above you. There's a clue, right? You were
There
watching
is a
people
clue.
above you and you were seeing how they were living their lives because you probably were thinking that that was your future too, right?
Exactly.
And
That's
what did
the
you see?
jackpot. Yeah. When you are in that consulting career and corporate world, there is always good money in there. You are surrounded by smart people.
Hmm.
Uh, and you hope you get to some kind of level and you're just gonna enjoy the money.
Yeah, you're gonna cruise. You're gonna get to a
Yeah,
certain
like
point and
yeah,
you're gonna enjoy
chill
life.
out and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But but then the higher you are, you have the more interactions with people in those positions, and you realize that they're always at work. They
They're
just,
always at
they
work.
are 24/7. They are saying they're going for holiday, but they respond to all the emails. Uh,
Yeah.
and and that was the world that has been already shaped in this way. So everyone was working like this.
Hmm.
And I'm super strong and confident person and self-confident, and I consider myself that I can do anything. So I was thinking, wait, I can do anything and I can stay there and change it and I can work on my own terms. And I knew I could do that if I wanted. But then I thought also that mm, it's gonna cost me a lot of energy
Yes.
to change that.
Yes.
And I thought I don't want to waste that energy this way. I want to do something different. So I think that was my break point, how to change something that I didn't want to stay there and waste my energy on changing the world that was structured in the way that was against my way of, dream life. Um, I knew I could learn a lot there, but I also knew that if this world was functioning on different terms, I could have learned tons, like just, 5 times more. So that was my mental blocker. I don't want to fight the system, and I don't want to use my time ineffectively. And it was at a similar time when a startup reached out to me with like really interesting offer.
Hmm.
And it was AI. So, 5 years ago, AI was very trendy. So I thought I'm gonna try it because it was very independent role and everything like that. So yeah, I changed.
But hang on a second, because 5 years ago, ChatGPT didn't exist. It wasn't real.
Mm.
So back in those days, 5 years ago, it was machine learning, right? And
Yes,
so you
it's
saw
image
that.
recognition AI.
Right, right. Okay. And what I mean by it didn't exist at the time is that the broader view of AI was just beginning in terms
Yeah,
of
that
broad
was definitely
recognition.
early
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
So my thinking was also, okay, it's gonna be a growing industry, so I have a way to learn things that's gonna be desired, and that's gonna
Hmm.
be very valuable. And I also knew that I can always come back if something, if something didn't work out or if I didn't like it, I knew I have a way to come back. But I liked it. I started, mm, that saying that grass is always greener
Of
on the
course.
other side. So I agree with this. I created my own definition. Maybe let's call it this way. So I'm saying that the grass is as green as you make it. So if you are watering it properly, then it's gonna be green, right? So you can create your own garden, and I think that's what I did.
Okay. I
So
love that. I love that because you can control it, right?
yeah,
You
you
can
can.
control it. You can control
You
your
can control.
environment to a certain
You can
extent.
control it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did that, and I started that job. It gave me a lot of autonomy, a lot of way of designing my relationship with clients, with people I work with. Um, and it changed a lot in the way I started also perceiving doing business and work in a bigger structure. Because the way build, you set up some boundaries and expectations, the way you start off and the way you let others interact with you, it's just then building your reality. So you have a lot of control over yourself. You cannot control what other people do, right? You
Right.
cannot control their actions, but you can control what you say, how you react, how you respond. And that's what I was doing to make sure this is something aligned um, with, not so aligned ways of working in my previous places. So I wanted to make sure I do, I spend my time efficiently and I do things that matter.
Hmm.
Everyone who's spent some time in consulting, they remember taking, building those, long PowerPoint slide decks. I discovered the world what you can actually have a meeting with client and you don't need a PowerPoint,
Yep.
which is, people in consulting cannot imagine that. Like PowerPoint is there. So yeah, so that was, I'm laughing now, but it's actually changing a lot in your work when you don't have to um, do things that doesn't really matter, or you don't have to work towards perfection of a one page, but you can focus on big picture, on important stuff, have that 80-20 rule. And I think now I'm applying it at work and at business. And before I was more like focusing on the 80% of non-important stuff instead of
Okay,
that
so
those
so let
20.
me just explain the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule says focus on the 20% of the things that you do that provide 80% of the value. That's one way to look at it, right? A lot of us focus on the 80% of stuff that only provides the 20% of value. So if you can look for that 20% of all the things that you do that provide the most value, focus on those things. And that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so it's interesting because I feel like your journey is not an uncommon one, which is why we're here, right? Where people start off in their careers and they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna work my way up. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna get promoted. I'm gonna make more money, and then once I get to the point of making the money that I want to make, then I'll have the lifestyle that I will have ar arrived, right?" But then you
Yes.
realize, and this is for you young people out there, then you realize the higher you go, the harder it gets, right? A lot of times. And the higher the expectations become. Because you know what? If you're going to be making more money, there's a lot of conditions tied around it when you're making more money. And and a lot of those conditions is you're going to do business the way we do business. And so, especially when you're dealing with more established companies that have been around for decades or a century, right? It becomes that much harder. So you hit that wall. Are you still working for your AI company?
I'm still working for a company and I'm building my coaching business on the side. I've
Okay,
started
good.
some time ago, so I'm doing both.
So folks, there's another hint. Okay, if you, especially in the world, and I want to talk with you at some point in time later on. I want to talk with you about the evolving world of AI and how it is affecting, the workforce, right? But as you're moving forward with this, a lot of people think, well, gosh, I got a full-time job, I can't do something else. And here you are, Dorota, you are working a job and you're building a side business, right? Which is
Everything is
wonderful.
possible if you only want.
If you only
That's my thing.
want,
Yeah.
right?
And try maybe because,
And what?
and try to do it
And
if you
strive to
want
do it.
and if you try.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Okay, so you got to the point at hitting that success wall where you realize that you achieve success without peace wasn't what you wanted. What do you mean by peace?
I would say I define it just, feeling good with the things that you do, just approving things that you are doing, not feeling forced to what you do. I can compare it to a saying that you get to do things instead of have to.
Say that again.
You get to do things instead of have to do them.
Okay, I want to talk about that for a sec. Okay, that's huge. Folks, take two words in your vocabulary, get and have. Okay, just those two words. Okay, anytime you wake up, or you're during your day and you go, I have to go to work. No, you get to go to work. That's what you're talking about, right, Dorota?
Yes.
Okay, I have to pick up my kids. I get to pick up my kids. I have to do this presentation. You get to do that presentation. And just try that. I mean, you could try that right now, even as you're driving. This is one of those things you could do while you're driving. You don't have to stop the car. But think about what you're doing right now. What do you have to do? And just change that to what do you get to do? What does that do, Dorota? Why do you say that's important?
So this is part of my fascination with brain and neuroscience,
Yes.
because that's changing a lot. Our brains are wired with our thoughts. So if you keep repeating things that are limiting you or that are somehow negative, and being forced to do things is negative in reality. So saying I have to sounds like someone is forcing you to do that.
Right.
So if you have to get to work or have that meeting or take that Zoom call at 7 a.m., it means someone is forcing you. And if you are being forced, then that's a negative thing. So if you are putting in your head those thoughts constantly, then how you can be happy? Like, being forced to do things, it's crazy. You're living in prison in your head because this is your reality. That's how kind of our life evolves. So sometimes just shifting your perspective on something
Or shifting a
and
word.
shifting a word, exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the growth mindset and ability to learn and evolve. You can't say, I can't play piano, right? But if you add one word and say, I can't piano yet, you're making it
Yeah,
an open thing that you
that's
can
right.
actually learn that
I love that. I can't speak a second language. No, I
yet.
can't speak a second language yet, right? I'm not good
Mhm.
enough, right? How's that for I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Folks, just add the word yet. And when I just did that, when I just said the words, I'm not good enough, and then I added yet to it, it changed. I felt a difference, Dorota. I felt a difference. All of a sudden, it wasn't, oh, I can't do that. It was, I can't do it yet,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
opened that's really cool. I love that. And so, okay, so change the word have to get. You don't have to, you get to, and add the word yet. That's pretty cool. So, the neuroscience part of it, I want to talk about that. And we talked about those two examples just now, but why is that so powerful? And what is it that that folks learn from you in terms of the neuroscience and in terms of, that finding better that you want and designing it?
Mhm. Very good question. And I teach also stuff by experience. So I learned them myself over the last 3, 4 years, because that's when I got started getting fascinated about the topic. And then I'm going deeper and deeper, and every time exploring different stuff. But for me, as a high achiever, it's really, and as a very analytical person, again,
Hmm.
everyone in consulting knows that how we are crazy about, understanding things. I needed to understand a little bit of science behind what's happening with me.
Hmm.
So, we have different ways of building mindfulness, meditation, and different other mental tools to make yourself feel better with this crazy digital world that is, stealing your focus. Okay, and then you might think, okay, is it like how real is that? So I wanted to get a little bit of that, how behind. And that's what got me fascinated. And I started reading more and more and exploring more and more. And then you get to understand few things. So when I work with people, I challenge their thinking by asking them curious questions, but at the same time giving them some real knowledge and explaining
Hmm.
them why something works, why one way or another. Let's take maybe an example on um, you know that saying about eating the frog in the morning. So if you have to eat the frog in the morning, if you have to eat the frog, eat it in the morning. If you
Okay.
have to eat two frogs, eat bigger one first. It's about having to do a big task.
Okay.
So if you have one big task to do, just do it first thing in the morning. And if you have
Okay.
two big tasks, just do the bigger first.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's this funny saying, and so many people are repeating this, but it actually has neuroscience behind it. So our prefrontal cortex is tiny. And the only thing that is actually and prefrontal cortex is the part that's responsible for logical thinking. So any logical decision, any if you have to write something, if you have to do the analysis, like hard work is done by prefrontal cortex. So if it's tiny and only sleep is a way to recharge it, then it is a logical way why you should do hard stuff in the morning. Because in the evening, you have no power in your prefrontal cortex anymore. So you cannot do like yes, you can still work, but it's gonna be inefficient. You're gonna spend 3 hours to do something that could have taken you 1 hour in the morning. And
Really?
that speaks to me.
Really?
That's how prefrontal
That
cortex works.
that is fascinating. I've never heard anything said that way. And you got my mind thinking, and I'm sure people who are listening are going, wait a minute. Okay, so the theory is that um, you're more productive earlier in the day. And I'm sitting back going, okay, so in my in my life, I'm going, yeah, because I am totally productive in the morning. I mean, to the extent that I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I know, and I always attributed that to, it's quiet and I don't get distracted and, I can focus. I never thought of it as a prefrontal cortex thing. That just blew my mind. But it's a real thing. That's what you're saying, right?
It is. It is a real thing, and that's the real argument that
Huh.
speaks to me. Instead of okay, just do it in the morning because that's what the most productive people on the
Yeah.
world do.
Yeah, 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 that too, right?
Mm,
That is really cool. So, okay, so another thing that tells me is that, the numbers that you use were 3 times more productive early in the day as you are late in the day. And so when I think about productivity, if I spend 4 hours in the morning, that would be the equivalent of 12 hours at night.
mm. No,
So,
just to clarify, the numbers were random, so
yeah, 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 yeah,
let's
yeah,
not
yeah.
get attached
They're
to
just
that. But
examples. They're
you
just
can
examples.
imagine that, right?
But
If you
I can
have no
imagine,
more fuel, then you
yeah,
know.
yeah. And I can imagine, I can easily imagine 50% more productive. Easily, maybe even double for me. But
Yep.
that is okay. Okay. So, one of the things that I love in doing this podcast is that when my audience can actually take something away that can help them right from this conversation. So, they don't have to pay for a consultant or consulting a consultation. And that is something, folks, try it. Try it. Dorota, I used to be a night person, where I would go to bed at 2 o'clock at night and I'd wake up, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning kind of thing. And I forced myself to become um, a morning person.
Me too.
Took me a long time,
I know that.
but I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. And you just connected some dots for me. And I'm much more productive in the morning.
Yeah,
So
I totally get that. I had the same.
yeah, try it, folks. Try it. It for me, all of a sudden, the realization just hit me. So, so okay, so training your brain. Okay, so now we've talked about some really cool things that have to get add the yet have to get add the yet. Okay, good. And then we talked. What did we just talk? Oh, morning, the prefrontal cortex, right? It gets tired. So let's talk about training. You talk about elite athletes, right? And
Yeah.
everything, if you want to be elite at anything, you have to build up to it. And so when you talk about training the brain, what does that mean and how can people engage with that?
So I mean by this, uh, real, actual exercise, the same way you go to the gym
Yeah,
and do repetitions, the same thing doing with your brain to get the result you want. It can be either like learning something, it can be either building focus, more awareness. It all depends on what people want to work on. Uh, but obviously, starting small is always easier, right? Because
of course.
we know how it is with big steps. Uh, but you can do it in different ways. Like something that I'm personally fascinated about is visualization, because this is how athletes are training their minds.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Yes.
actually doing mental rehearsal of um, whatever sport they are doing, whether it's football, soccer, whether it's tennis. Djokovic is an amazing example of mental rehearsal, and how like real elite person he became. And you see that difference between everyone around, like versus what he has achieved. So, that mental rehearsal of a move, of a repetition, of a serve, or whatever, is actually working. And it's scientifically proven that you can actually learn things by imagining them in your head, because your brain doesn't get the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Ooh, okay. So when we're talking about an elite athletes, right? We're talking about, for example, a golfer envisioning a hole in one or hitting the ball really well, going through
Mhm.
that mental exercise. And I know that folks do this, yeah, especially at the elite level. And so wonderful example. So let's bring that down to practicality to normal people. Okay. So we've been
Mhm.
talking about redefining success and living with peace. How how do what kind of thing do you um give me an example of an
Mhm.
exercise that you
What
would
people
give to
can do.
somebody? Yeah. Yeah.
So say you have a work thing, right? Say you have a boss-employee relationship, and you are the employee, and you've been given too many responsibilities or all the time, and you don't know how to say no to your boss. So you can actually start that mental training and rehearsal of imagine yourself, getting into the room where your boss is, and practicing mentally how you're gonna say to that person, what you're gonna say, how you're gonna articulate that, what reasons are you gonna give, how they're gonna react, and then what you're gonna respond. Just rehearsing that thing, so just to feel more confident about it. You can also rehearse that you are being confident, the way you walk into the room and everything. And the more times you do that, it's just gonna be easier to finally do it. And yeah, maybe first time you're not gonna do it perfectly, but then you can keep rehearsing and next time react better.
Perfect practice makes perfect. The more
Yeah.
you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And like you said, the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and your imagination. And so to the brain, you are practicing, right? You are
Yeah.
going through that. You are rehearsing. And the more you do, the better you get. The more you use the muscle, the stronger the muscle gets. And that is a really that's really, really cool. And the other thing about what you just said is that the natural result of going through that mental exercise is that it becomes your preparation and it
Mhm.
becomes part of your planning, right? And um, the old saying that uh, um, people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. And now I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm starting to see all these different things getting connected in my head of the preparation, of the planning, of the mental rehearsal, of the envisioning. Um, that's really cool. It's funny because for me, I've heard a lot of these things. I've just never connected them, you know? And and I'm starting to understand, thank you, why all this stuff works.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating. It's fascinating. So one of the things I wanted to get your thoughts on, because you brought up AI and we talked about work, and you got involved in AI before it kind of exploded into a big
Mhm.
thing. So one of the things I explore all the time is the effect on AI to the workforce. And what I mean by that, it's not so much, using AI to be more productive,
Mhm.
but the trend that I see coming, that people are it's not coming, it's here, that work is going to change and opportunities are changing. And I see that, for example, in technology. So I retired 3 years ago. I recently unretired to join an AI company.
Mhm.
But you know, you see young people who are graduating from college today, and they started their college career 4 years ago in computer sciences, thinking they're going to go to work for Google or Apple or Microsoft or those big companies. And now these poor kids are graduating with a piece of paper, and nobody's really interested in it because none of the big companies are hiring junior people. And so as we're talking about work and we're talking about transition and we're talking about burnout, um, more and more, and you're seeing layoffs happen all the time. When
Yeah.
people come to you and they ask you, what what do I do? How do I set my brain to be able to survive in this new world that we're moving into? Has anybody ever come to you with that?
Hmm. Not with that specific question. Um, but if you ask me that, I think the question to everything, how do we survive, is like if you are, again, that's my thinking about rewiring your
Yeah.
brain. If you are thinking about survival, right, you are setting yourself up for a like challenging journey, like survival. Like, is it really what you wanna think? Like, let's think about
Oh.
the opportunities in this world. Uh, so again, if you wanna see AI as a scary thing, it's gonna be scary. But if you shift the perception and think, okay, what's in it I can find for myself? What are the opportunities? What
I
are the good
love that.
sides of that? And then how I carve out my own opportunity, or how I can be more curious about where is that opportunity. So focus on positive, focus on solutions. not on the tragedy and the bad sides, because that's what you're gonna, magnetize to yourself if you want.
That's what you're going to manifest in your own life. You're absolutely right. Wow. I consider myself a really positive person, but I've with everything with the kinds of things that I'm seeing out there, I have drifted to the negative, you know, and you can look at life as the glass half full or the glass half
Hmm.
empty. And what you just said, you just transformed my thinking. And what you just said, you told me, John, why are you focused on scarcity? Why aren't you focused on abundance? Right? That's what
Yeah.
you just said. At least that's how I interpreted what you just said. And you said, yes, AI is going to have negative impacts on a lot of people, but at the same time, get curious. And I tell people all the time, you know, reinvent, reignite your curiosity. Because we're born with curiosity. As children, we're curious, and yet life happens, and we're told that's a stupid question. We're told, you know, the curiosity killed the cat. And so I feel
Hmm.
like the world, what you just said is get curious. I love that because when you get curious, you open up your world. And you'll come up with things and you'll see things that you never saw before, including the world of AI, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what opportunities are going to happen with the artificial intelligence. Nobody knows, but everybody knows there's something's going to happen. And so I love that. I love that. Folks, yeah, get curious. Look at life from the perspective of solutions, not problems. Because if you look at life the way I presented it, sorry, but good learning, it's scary. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Well, if you ask the questions, what am I gonna do to survive? You're gonna get answers. Answers are gonna
Yeah.
come, right? And they're gonna be more based around survival than based around opportunity.
That's very well said. And I can add a neuroscience behind that.
Yes,
Why is that happening? Um, probably a lot of listeners might have had a situation in the past that they wanted to get a car, specific make and model and color. I
right,
know, let's take red Mazda. And then suddenly you see that Mazda everywhere. Like
right,
everyone
right,
drives your dream. It's happening, right? You
right.
know that from real
Totally.
life. I know that definitely. And I thought it's just okay, like how come, right? Like, are you sure you're gonna get this car? Because half of the city is driving it. So that's not like magical, overproduction of your cars, or like it's not like, like everyone having that red Mazda is just coming to the city in the week where you are getting yours.
Exactly. In front of you.
Yeah, that's not happening. Like, let's
Right.
clear that out. It's your brain filter. So we have something called RAS, reticular activating system, in your head.
Reticular activation system.
Activating
Okay.
system. This is your filter. So this is depending on what you are focusing on. So what you choose to focus. And what we focus on is the stuff we are keeping in your heads. So if you are focusing on um, survival, as you said, AI, how can I survive AI? Then you're going to filter the information bombarding you every day to find for how to survive.
That is so true.
If you are focused on opportunities, then you're going to look for them. And we we are bombarded with, I think it depends on the data, like between 10 to 70 thousands of, pieces of information. It's like loads of, no, sorry, thoughts, 10 to 70,000 thoughts in our day. And then tons of informations every day. So if you want to filter what's important in your head or either what's coming to you have that filter. And if you set it up for survival, you're going to get your survival. If you set it for
Which
opportunity,
and survival would be great if you were lost in the Amazon rainforest.
yeah. And that's happening automatically through our, survival brain. So you don't even need to do that. But in real life, you can set up your focus right. And that's why, if you want that red Mazda, you're gonna see it everywhere. But not because it magically appeared, but because that's your brain focus. You are wired in that moment through your filter to see those Mazdas because you're about to have your own. So you see it naturally everywhere. It's the same with women who are either pregnant or want to have kids. Like suddenly they spot, oh, everyone is pregnant, but not me. Or they spot like kids everywhere. Something that they haven't noticed. I have this with my dog. So I have a dog now, like 4 years already, but before I wasn't noticing dogs. And suddenly now I see them everywhere
They're
and I
all
know,
over the
pay
place.
attention.
Yeah.
I pay attention, they're so great. But before, yeah, you know, it wasn't my focus. Now it's my filter.
That is so okay, okay, okay. So you're blowing my brain again. Okay, so I just wrote down your focus is your reality, right?
Mhm.
You focus on a red Mazda, you're going to see red Mazdas. You focus on dogs, you're going to see dogs. You focus on children, you're going to see children. You focus on bad stuff, you're going to see bad stuff. You focus on opportunities, you're going to see opportunities. Did I say that right?
That's what I teach
Right?
and that's what
That's
I
your
stand
filter.
by. So you can shape your reality by, the way you think and you set up your brain, where you focus your thinking, what you want to see, how you use those words, whether you say I have to or I get to, whether you add yet or don't. It just feels different and your reality changes.
You know, I have loved talking to you. In fact, you have triggered. I might have done more talking on this episode than you did because you just triggered so many things in my mind. And this has just been really, really cool. And I feel like I'm gonna listen to this again because one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because my daughter asked me to. And she told me two things. She says, Dad, you've taught us and our friends so many great things growing up. The world needs to hear what you have to say. I didn't believe her. I still don't, but I'm doing this. And but the other part of it is that, there's just so much negative information out there, and there's so much.
Oh,
I call
yes.
them messages of inadequacy. You're just not good enough, right? In social media, you're not good enough. In advertising, you're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not strong enough. And I wanted to create this safe place for people to be able to come and learn from people who want nothing from them, but just want to share, right? And what you just what you just made me realize is that I've been drifting towards the negative, in my conversations. Of course, we're always talking about finding better. But when you talk about focus, your focus is your reality. That is such a powerful, powerful thing. And I've always known that, but you've kind of connected all these little dots in this collage of all these different colors. And I hope that what you've just done for me, you've done for my listeners as well. Um, and you made it so simple, right? It doesn't have to be hard.
So that's, your reaction is perfect because that's why I join. I enjoy things I do and why I do what I do, why I talk to people, why I, share what I learned. Okay, I'm not, like expert on the stuff. I learned a lot
Yeah,
myself, but it's fascinating and I want to learn more and more and more to be able to understand myself better, but also share more with people. But sometimes just one, theoretically silly information about the brain can shift your perception and how you are thinking
totally.
about something. And then it can be a trigger to change more. So that's why I think it's so powerful. I'm glad you you found it interesting, and I hope
Totally.
listeners as well.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, folks, just try one of these things that we talked about. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a quick summary in a second, because doing one of them can lead to others and lead to something else and lead to
Mhm.
something else, right? You just never know. I want to end on this on a conversation about a word that you used, and the word that you used was feel. Okay, and you used it in the same sentence as digital world. We live in the
Mhm.
digital world, and you talked about feeling. You know, one of the things that I've always I seem to be saying this in just about every episode, but that 40 years in technology, we've had multiple generations. We've gone from mainframes to servers to the internet and so forth and so on, right? And each generation we've gotten smarter and smarter. This had a big thing to do with it, the
Yes.
smartphone. And I coined a phrase, Dorota, that says, we've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart. And so when you use the word feel and you use the word when we were talking about real success, how important is it? How important are feelings? Because we think that we think with our heads, right? And we think with our brain and we think, oh, that's a stupid idea, but it feels good, but it's a stupid idea. How important is our feelings, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'll just call it feeling your heart.
Yeah. Um, so again, I like exploring the science part and how it is all connected to our brains.
Hmm.
So I'm reading very interesting book about like details behind the brain and how brain is actually evolving. It's one of the first books of Joe Dispenza because he's in details describing every element of the brain. And actually, there is a lot about that connection between brain, feelings, and what's the difference between brain and mind. Uh,
Ah,
Feelings are triggering chemical reactions
yes.
in our body, and those reactions going in here and triggering different things, what our brain is doing, how it's evolving. So it's very related and connected system. Like I I didn't realize like brain is so complex and
Hmm.
it's just steering trillions of reactions in ourselves every second. So it's super fascinating part of our body, and feelings are triggering how it behaves and what it's doing, how it's triggering reactions in different organs of our body. So that's this side I'm supportive, and I want to explore more and more to understand that, and that's why feelings are important. But then feelings are then also triggering thoughts. So
Right.
if you feel something in your stomach, then you're scared, then you're thinking about, oh my God, what's gonna happen? How am I gonna survive that? Right? And then those thoughts are triggering your reactions, what you're gonna do in life, how you're gonna react, respond, whether you're gonna fight, flight, or freeze. And that's deciding on your life
Hmm.
and how you're behaving. So again, to me, it's everything is very, very connected. And feelings very often initiate that reaction, your action, and then the result that you're gonna get.
Yeah, the thing that I'm fascinated by is the idea that yes, everything is connected, but there's an organization in Santa Cruz, California. It's called the Heart Math Institute, and it talks about how the heart actually has its own intelligence. And
Mm-hmm.
the example that I use is I may be going in my head going, don't do it, don't do it. But there's something in me that says, do it. You should do it. Or my brain is saying, do it. My heart or something inside me is saying, don't even do it.
Mm-hmm.
And at least what I have found that is that my heart is usually right. You talked about that feeling in your stomach. They also say that your gut has its own intelligence as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, being mindful and not ignoring those signals that you're getting, I have found to be really, really interesting because they're almost never wrong, at least in my journey. And so it's just really, really fascinating um, how it all works, right? You talked about trillions of reactions in our brains every second. And so somehow being able to be aware of what's going on, I think is huge. Now, folks, I'm just going to give you a little summary of some of the things we talked about today that you could do now. Take the words have, take the word have, replace it with get. I have to go to work. I get to go to work. It just changes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just said those words and I'm like, I get to go to work, right? I have to go to work. And anything that any negative thoughts that you have, um, add yet. Add yet. I'm not good enough yet. I'm not smart enough yet. I'm not successful enough or experienced enough yet. Right? That is so cool. Be aware, like Dorota just gave me the awareness that I'm a heck of a lot more productive in the morning than I am in the afternoon or in the evening, right? And it goes back to the prefrontal cortex. Makes a lot of sense. And remember that, and these are my notes that I've gotten from you, Dorota. Your focus is your reality. So, there's an old saying that says, careful what you ask for because you might just get it. Careful what you focus on because it's going to happen, right? And so with that, I love this. All right, Dorota, I'm going to ask you to final message to my audience.
Mm. Final message. Yeah, my 2025 is my year of curiosity. So I'm saying everyone to be more curious, especially about yourself and your own thoughts, and just try to more often pause, reflect, and ask yourself, okay, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking? What am I wishing for? How do I want to focus? And just challenge those thoughts. That can go and like lead to something interesting. So yeah, be more curious about yourself and also about others.
I love that. When you say and challenge yourself, one of the most frustrating things my kids and grandkids have done is always asking me the word why. Always ask me why. You
Mhm.
know, don't do that. Why? Because it's not safe. Why? Because you might hurt yourself. Why?
Mhm.
Because that iron is hot. Why? And you just go, stop. But you know what? There's
Yeah.
some real value in that, right? I
Don't
mean,
stop them anymore.
when you're in the moment and you're just mad at somebody, as Dorota said, challenge yourself. Take that moment and say, why am I so mad? Is
Mhm.
it because they just did this thing to me? Uh, why is that a big deal? Because they made me look bad. Okay, so why is that important?
Mhm.
And what I have found is that challenging yourself with the word why 6 times almost gets you always to that point of realization of
Yeah.
why is that such a big deal?
Very, very well said.
Dorota, this has been so much fun. And I know that my audience has learned a lot from this conversation. And we've gone almost an hour. It has gone so fast, and I've enjoyed this. Listen, if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, where should they go? What should they do?
They should definitely go to my LinkedIn page. I'm under my name, Dorota Kosiorek. I'm also on Instagram, Mind by Dorota, and my website. It's dorotakosiorek.com. So you can learn more about myself, my journey, what I do, what I teach. And if you want to, I have discovery calls that you can book It's free, doesn't cost anything, and we can explore, uh, some mindset helpful techniques for yourself, or just have a chat.
Wonderful. Okay, so get a piece of paper and a pencil, because just in a minute I'm going to spell out Dorota's name so that you guys can know what that is. And it's in the show notes. But Dorota is Dorota. Got it? Dorota, just like it sounds. Okay. Her last name, Koshorek. Did I say that right? See?
Yes, you said it very
Close,
well.
right? Close. Is spelled Kosiorek. Okay, Kosiorek. So with that, Dorota, thank you. Thank you for joining me. This has been a really fun conversation. And I love you. God bless you for everything that you're doing and helping others. And everybody out there, share this with folks around you, because they're just if you just do one of the things that we talked about, it could lead to lots more really cool things. Okay?
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. I love you all. God bless you all. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much as well. It was pleasure.